Awesome, I'm going to go find myself a seat and I'm going to get started.
It was like 2 seats.
Alright folks, without further ado, I would like to introduce the first speaker of the affirmative team to the floor.
My shiny long hair and my beautiful soft-looking skin is going to mean that I am a happy person living a great life. Oh wait, that actually doesn't matter at all, does it? Not when it comes to your physical and your mental well-being. In today's debate, we do not stand for pushing these beauty regimes through making them sound like a self-care trend. 3 main points for you in today's debate. Firstly, how this perpetuates beauty standards. Secondly, about how this encourages consumerism. And thirdly, how it encourages sexism. Now, for some characterization, what do these trends actually entail? Well, influencers and brands with unattainable lifestyles and beauty standards tell primarily youth, like teenagers, that looking after your appearance will make you happy. They push specific products because it makes them money, obviously, because through PR and sponsorships. This is important because people will fall into their trap and buy these products and never actually see the goals that they are trying to achieve. Companies also have some control over these trends because they provide sponsorships so they can associate themselves with these beautiful people so their product looks like it actually works. For example, we see Alex Earle pushing these expensive beauty products on TikTok like Drunk Elephant and Glow Recipe, and it's actually impossible for these people to achieve to look like Alex Earle because of the fact that she has got plastic surgery, etc. So people are likely to think beauty equals happiness because, firstly, influencers that are beautiful are living great lives because of their wealth and because of the job of influencer, which is a pretty cushy job. You get paid a lot and you have a lot of time off. Secondly, history has literally told us this. As women, we are not allowed, we don't get the same opportunities if we don't fit the ideal beauty standards. Now, moving on to what will the alternative actually look like? Well, without this narrative, given that there has been a push for taking care of physical and mental health, which we do believe there is this narrative because of the fact that we're seeing lots more gyms and also more open mental health discussions, we believe that the narrative of self-care will still exist, but it will prioritize your physical and mental health rather than your appearance. For example, we'll see things in increased meditation and increased yoga. So public pressure is a real driver for people's behaviour. Firstly, because people feel like they have to comply with societal standards because they are faced with disadvantages if not. For example, women are not seen as highly valued if they don't fit the societal standard of what they should look like. Secondly, people will still buy products they can't afford because of the fact that they are insecure, and insecurity affects so many people. So they are willing to think that if I'm no longer insecure, I will be happy, therefore I am willing to spend this money. Now, before I move on to my first point, I'll take a POI.
Do you not think that having these beauty products marketed to them makes them more confident when they use these and therefore increases their mental health?
I will talk a little bit later on about how beauty products are often not effective in the way that you hope, but I think that people will obviously also get a lot more, feel a lot more insecure when they use these products, and it doesn't reap the same benefits that you're seeing on these model influencers that are literally the height of beauty. So now moving on to my first point about how this perpetuates beauty standards. For some context, for a very, very long time, women's success has been directly linked to their beauty and their appearance. When this becomes a trend, it is pushed even further. If self-care and appearance is linked, people who are insecure will think they are not looking after themselves and that they are doing something wrong. Now, why are we unlikely to ever feel happy with ourselves? Well, firstly, the women and men showing us these trends and enforcing them are unrealistically beautiful with unattainable bodies due to plastic surgery, due to fillers, due to dyeing their hair. These people are likely to be pushing the trend, obviously, because they're beautiful and you want to look like them. You think they're attractive, you're like, I want to look like that. Secondly, it's unachievable. As I said, these influencers quite often have unattainable beauty standards because of the fact that they've had things like plastic surgery that they can afford. The average person can't afford these things, so therefore they can never compare to these people. They're never going to end up seeing themselves as attractive because they can't compare to these wealthy influencers that have had the ability to to provide these kind of facilities for them. Now, why isn't it true that even if you do achieve beauty, you're still going to end up unhappy? So firstly, everyone is insecure. Everyone has something about themselves that they do not like and that they want to change. There is always room for improvement. This will lead to obviously people continuously buying more products and continuously finding ways to try and fix themselves. That does not sound like a happy life to me. That sounds like a pretty miserable one to live. Secondly, being pretty doesn't actually provide a longer and better life. Just because your face looks nice and your hair looks nice, it does not equate to being physically healthy and actually living a prosperous life.
Point.
Now, the outcomes of this is that people will obviously be insecure. They'll feel sad about who they are. They'll feel like they don't fit in, and they don't speak up for themselves. They don't speak up for themselves because of the fact that we've aligned beauty in women with success. Now, look, on our side of the house, we allow people to discover other ways to care for themselves that is actually going to see physical and mental improvements that is going to improve their quality of life. Now, moving on to my second point about consumerism. For some context, to make someone want a product, you need to show them that there is a problem. Supply and demand, it's simple economics. If there isn't already a demand for it, companies will be telling people that there is a problem, that there is some kind of demand. Look, for example, Bic started to sell women's razors, telling them that having hairy legs is something manly and unfeminine. Women shouldn't have it. These products are obviously pushed by influencers through things like sponsorships and PR. Companies can directly pick and choose who they actually want to push their products on social media. Now, firstly, influencers have access to expensive stuff in massive amounts. This is through either PR or just simply being able to buy it themselves. These influencers are pretty people, so others will see a correlation between owning heaps of things and expensive things and to being a beautiful person. Secondly, people believe that the only way to be pretty is to copy these wealthy influencers. This results in people spending way too much money they don't have and can't afford to copy them, to try and achieve these goals and to try to appear like these people when it's unrealistic in the first place. Thirdly, trends come and go quickly. So when this happens, people buy new stuff and they feel up to date. So they're constantly buying a new product, seeing if it works for them, and then they're finding out it doesn't. They're overspending on things that are not necessarily and wasting product. Lastly, quite often influencers are inclined to push products that are not effective. This is because they are literally being paid to push this product. So for example, there's Monday Hair Care. It literally makes you bald. It is not effective. It literally damages your hair, which is the opposite of what shampoo is supposed to do. So there's examples of where the influencers are pushing products that are not effective and people are still influenced to go and buy them because they're seeing amazing results on these influencers that are not real. The outcomes of this, if people buy a bunch of plastic products that they aren't using, obviously that is extremely bad for the environment, and it tells companies that they can continue this manipulation behavior. And thirdly, it wastes consumers' money significantly. Through these beauty trends, we've convinced people that wasting your money is worth it if you want to be pretty. We've convinced people that being pretty is equated to self-care, and that self-care is this form of self-care is what's going to make us have a happy life. We've made it seem that beauty is actually a valuable aspect to life when we do not believe that. We believe that the most valuable aspects of life is to be healthy, be in the right mindset, and love yourself inside and out. Thank you. Sorry.
Zoe, you try to example bad products.
Alright, I thank the speaker for their speech and would like to introduce the first speaker of the negative team.
It's not feminist game based on.
That's my feminist cake.
You guys ready?
Women being told that wearing makeup is for men, that their skincare routines are for the male gaze, that's what we oppose on our side of the house. That's what side proposition stands for. Let's clarify the debate a little bit. Note that beauty products still exist on their side. What's the difference? It's whether or not it's associated with self-care. That's the narrative. They characterize trends only through rich companies in their model. Note that this is also like middle-class people on TikTok showing off their beauty care products. A lot of the times it is like more trendy, sustainable products. That's really helpful. And also, with insecurities with physical appearances are so apparent as people can see tangible changes in the mirror when they like cover them up and use these beauty products, right? So covering these up is important to like go to events and like impactful their confidence, their mental health. Beauty products are the only thing that can do this for people's faces, their hair. So what do these two worlds look like? On our side, it looks like beauty routines are used as a way to practice self-care. What is self-care? It's taking care of yourself and your body. It's making yourself feel good without the not for others, but for yourself. It's internal validation. On their world, beauty products are still prevalent, right? Beauty products aren't simply going to disappear. The difference in the narrative is they're not used for self-care. They look like wanting to impress other people and conforming to male-dominated beauty standards, like putting makeup on for other people, for other men. So what does this look like as a trend? Firstly, it looks like social media. You see this all the time. Secondly, it's looked like a culture of youth and adults doing it for themselves. Thirdly, it looks like a commercial perception. People see others during these beauty routines to feel good. They do it too because they want to feel good as well. 4 points today. Firstly, on how beauty routines make individuals feel good. Secondly, how self-care focused beauty routines progress the goals of the feminist movement. Thirdly, how self-care has changed the marketing of beauty products. Fourthly, our split on how beauty routines affirm the identity of the LGBTQ+ community. Firstly, on how beauty routines make individuals feel good. What do these beauty routines as self-care actually look like? Firstly, it looks like having a skincare routine for health and aesthetics. Secondly, it looks like makeup to look like a girl boss, right? It can happen regardless of situation, whether you're going out, whether you're going in, they do it for themselves. Why do these individuals feel good when they do these routines? Firstly, it makes them feel confident in their appearance. They think they're pretty. It allows them to cover up like for what they think their perceived imperfections are. This takes away insecurities. They feel a lot better. Secondly, the fact they're doing it for self-care is beneficial in and of itself, right? Regardless of actual routine and how that makes them feel, they're going to feel good. They're doing it for themselves. They're doing it for like the sense of catharsis after a long day. Because, I mean, look at all the people in COVID lockdown. They were doing these get ready with me's. They were doing all these makeup routines and they were doing it for themselves. They weren't doing it to go out. They wanted to look pretty. They wanted to feel good. Thirdly, it's incredibly satisfying to use. Like when I wake up and use like moisturizer, it just feels good, right? They're going to be happy. So what does this mean for individuals? Firstly, they're just incredibly happy. They're doing things for themselves. It's good for their mental health. They're like able to cope with anything that's going on outside of these routines and feel better in that. Secondly, they're far more confident. They're happy to try new things. They're happy to go out because they're like are less like swamped by these insecurities, and they're like a form of internal happiness. Incredibly helpful for mental health. On the other side of the house, makeup and beauty routines are about other people. We think that's an extremely harmful narrative to push, and we don't think we heard enough at first about it and how they actually like mitigate these damages. Secondly, on how self-care... Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Given that to sell a product, you need to create a need. How do you ensure that people will ever be happy due to this constant need?
Yeah, so that's my third point. I'll get to it, yeah. How self-care beauty routines progress the goals of the feminist movement. So what are the goals of the feminist movement? Firstly, it's dismantling the patriarchy. Secondly, it looks like equality of opportunity for women. Thirdly, it looks like empowering women alongside like any other gender. Fourthly, it looks like dismantling these gender norms, right? So what do these trends mean for the feminist movement? Firstly, it shifts the perception of makeup use, right? Historically, makeup has been for men. Like, let's look at in antiquity, right? In Greek, women used to use chalk to make themselves appealing, not for themselves, but for other men. That's always where it's been marketed towards. But now, notice that it's being adopted as self-care on our side of the house. It's now used for the perception of yourself, for what you want, for how you want to feel. That's incredibly beneficial. Secondly, it helps men, right? Because feminism is about helping all genders. So this new so on their side of the house, like men are still ostracized for like wanting to use like moisturizer as being too girly, but now Joe and me can wake up and like use cleanser and moisturizer every morning. We think that's incredibly good because like we feel better, and they can do it without like being called gay and being ostracized for it. And it breaks down these gender norms, which are not only helpful for men but also helpful for women. Women who want to use makeup can use it without being assumed that she wants a man, that she wants it so bad, right? Where they can go out is like dismantle this norm that women only do things for the male gaze. No, they do it for themselves because they care about themselves, because they care about their mental health. It makes them feel better. What does this mean for the feminist movement? Firstly, it dismantles these oppressive gender norms that are pushed on us by their narrative, right? That women have to do things for men. They have to appeal to men. No, they can appeal to themselves. They can like be girl bosses and put on makeup and do their skincare routines and feel really good about them. Secondly, it empowers women because again, we're dismantling these gender norms because you're doing it for yourself. There's nobody in it. You get that internal sense of validation. You feel really good. Thirdly, men can use skincare now, right? Men can use skincare. Men can also like buy into this level of feminism. The biggest critique of feminism is that it's just about man hating. That changes on our side because suddenly when men are like made able to like be part of this self-care routine, like it's no longer girly anymore. It's about self-care. It's about making yourself feel good. Men are going to think, wow, this is really beneficial. I'm a feminist. I love women as well. So what's the comparative? Skincare and makeup, like skincare and makeup are still perceived as something women do for men, for the male gaze. On our side, women reclaim these oppressive patriarchal ideas. They do it for themselves. That's really beneficial. They feel empowered. This is really good. Thirdly, on how self-care has changed the marketing of beauty products. Traditionally, before the rise of beauty routines, right? Like, I've already given you all of this analysis on how it was made for men. Historically, it's been targeted like women doing it for men. But now it's changed, right? The colors of these products have changed. The marketing of these products have changed. So how is this marketing changed? Firstly, it's changed to a feminist lens because suddenly these women aren't like being perceived as doing it for men. They're being perceived as doing it for themselves. These products, like these skincare routine, like these makeup, right, is changing colors from simply only being pink to like now you see blue, now you see like weird colors like yellow. Like it's about women empowerment and like not men. Secondly, the creators of these products change their marketing tactics, right? They're appealing it towards men. Their slogans are changing. They change colors. Their models are changing to be more inclusive because it's appealing towards women, not making these products for women, for men. So why is this change in marketing good? Firstly, women are portrayed fairly. They're portrayed as individuals. They're portrayed not as like, they're not being consistently objectified by their like commercialization. That's really good on our side. Secondly, they're given products they want, not what men want, right? More women are able to buy into like these self-care routines because it's incredibly beneficial for them. It's good for their mental health. They get to choose how they look, how they feel. Thirdly, they're more likely to buy the ones marketed towards them, right? Like, we heard about like simple supply and demand. Yes, we absolutely agree. When companies make these products for women instead of like making them for men, we think that's incredibly beneficial because those are the ones women are going to buy. The other they're incentivized to do this. They're incentivized to listen to their consumption base. So consumers. So we change the perception of women. We change the perception of companies. So proud to oppose.
Alright, I thank the speaker for their speech, and I'd like to introduce the second speaker of the affirmative team to the floor.
What do we do? Sit down.
Oh, sorry. What do you need? Oh, they're
Go, Germany!
Thank you. All right. Just because, sorry, my time didn't start. Hold on. Yeah. Just because a company is telling you that your actions are no longer appealing to men and that what you are doing is in fact for yourself does not mean that that is true, and it does not mean that any of the actions that you are partaking in actually benefit you in any way. The reality of today's self-care is that beauty products are being associated with self-care. We say this is so bad given that it comes across as very reasonable and it's quite popular, right? People want to
like see it as positive that you're looking after yourself and that you're caring about yourself and that you're happy, you're seeing a lot of trends thus because it is societally normal, and so you're seeing a lot more amplification of the sound around like having to use beauty products. But I think secondly, realistically, companies can no longer tell women that they need to look sexy for guys. That's probably not the reality on our side, given that that's just like a gross mischaracterization of what society is probably going to see as normal. I think we've made massive bounds and leaps in regards to sexism within the workplace and like our perception of women, but the only way that companies are able to get away with this advertising is by hiding it behind a thinly veiled lens of pretending that it is about women empowering themselves and pretending that it is about women caring about themselves, caring about their happiness, caring about their well-being. In reality, it is not, because it does not care about the true health of an individual, their like ability to live a longer life, their happiness, and the joy and what they get out of life. Uniquely, this means it cannot be criticized societally, and it also means that society tends to amplify this sort of conversation when women do not partake in this sort of trends and when women do not engage in the self-care. It's just not true that it's for yourself. The only benefits from beauty that you gain still rely on men and exist because of men. Thinly veiling this behind a mask of looking after yourself doesn't change this reality. It's not women reclaiming this, it's companies shifting the conversation to look far more appealing to their consumer base. On increasing confidence, we believe that advertisement actually incredibly depletes confidence because they need to create a demand for this product. This looks like Bic telling women that they need to shave their body hair because otherwise they look manly and disgusting. It creates insecurity in the first instance. These women wouldn't have issues with this confidence if they weren't told by companies that they needed to have it. Secondly, the comparison to others in lifestyles that are promoted as a result of self-care, for example, like the clean girl lifestyle, means that people generally think less of themselves. These women like living very, very like glamorous, wealthy lifestyles are never going to like be the same as the average working woman. The average working woman cannot continue to spend like hundreds of thousands of dollars on self-care. They're not getting like all of these products. They're not able to engage in these hauls, but also they're not as beautiful as the top 0.0001% of beauty that you're seeing online, because that's what we look up to. It's untrue that you will ever feel like you're enough when you are comparing yourself to these individuals, unless you actually see decreases in confidence, you see decreases in body image and your own beauty. If products don't work, additionally, influencers don't even get their beauty from their products. We've proved this because in reality they're usually born with it, or at least have plastic surgery or filters, but influencers often don't even use the products that they endorse, so it's untrue that you're going to end up getting these sort of confidence gains when these products ultimately don't end up providing that for you. We have proven that this is entirely unachievable. There will be no confidence change, and the benefits from that are never going to be reaped. The confidence in your appearance sees no direct correlation to success unless you're using what men give you. On confidence, it's only ever going to apply to people who can compare to these influencers, right? Who are able to see themselves as the top 0.0001%. And so even in instances where it is possible, these are the overwhelming minority. The people that we actually need to care about are the average women who probably aren't extraordinarily beautiful, because extraordinary beautiful people are not common. How the narrative of self-care exerts its public influence. Self-care associates with looking after yourself, and this is seen as a positive thing. Thus, lifestyles associated with self-care are the end goal because they are glorified so heavily, but they're often unrealistic. Influencer life is cushy, but it's not common. It's not something that actually most women are able to achieve unless they are born with it. But also, influencers don't want to show you the hard bits because they benefit from this glorification. They benefit from telling you that you need these products, otherwise you're not going to achieve that lifestyle, and this lifestyle is incredible and never has any problems. It's perfect. When people hear this, they associate appearance with how much you care about yourself and your life, and thus your motivation and worth are assessed by how much you engage with this norm. People who don't engage with this norm thus suffer from scrutiny and judgment from the general public. Women who don't shave their body hair are seen as sloppy, manly, disgusting, like they don't care about themselves. They're probably less likely to face any sort of advantage within the workplace because of this. Why we see worse mental health outcomes. Ultimately, because we have proven that this is unachievable for the average average person to do because they do not have the time of an influencer who devotes their entire brand identity to how they look, it means that actually you're never going to achieve any of the outcomes on confidence, on happiness, on any of that, because the self-care that you want to, that like self-care goal is never going to be reached. Secondly, you just have more body image and insecurity because you're promoting these very, very beautiful women as the ideal lifestyles, and you're putting them on a pedestal and saying they never see any problems. Thirdly, there's just less attention to other self-care possibilities. For example, if you're having like your skincare, you're probably not engaging in like nightly affirmations as much. Maybe you're not going to the gym as much because you're worried about, oh, I have to put my makeup on in the morning. Like, you're probably wearing sunscreen so you don't get skin cancer rather than wearing sunscreen so you don't get wrinkly and old and look like a disgusting old lady. So how do you guys actually encourage sexism regardless of bias? Before that, I will take a POI.
So if beauty routines aren't about self-care, what's the purpose of beauty routines for on your side?
Okay, awesome. So we probably see less beauty routines in general, given that beauty is not seen as important to your day-to-day life. If you don't believe that you're not going to get a promotion unless you put on this like lipstick, you're not going to get a happy lifestyle unless you like curl your eyelashes, you're probably less likely to engage with this. Companies are no longer able to get away with telling women that they need to buy these products in the first instance. We probably, just see less beauty product use, but if they are used, it's for creative purposes and because like it genuinely is an art in some instances, and people want to engage with that. How does it encourage sexism regardless of whether people buy in or not? Given we prove that women see less of themselves when companies tell them that they have to, given we prove that the lifestyle will not lead to the success of women and that beauty provides no direct benefits, and given these trends target women because they have pre-existing norms in which women were taught that they could not succeed without being beautiful and marrying a rich man, we see the following. Firstly, you don't acknowledge other self-care strategies as much. Women who believe that they will achieve happiness from being beautiful, thus probably don't put like their physical health and their mental health at the forefront of their minds. They're more likely to want to be super, super skinny and get to look like, and maybe engage in like dangerous behaviors to get to the point of an influencer, than they are likely to care about how they're actually feeling, how long their lifestyle is going to be. Women who don't buy in or aren't able to are told that they are sloppy, that they don't care about themselves, they see no career progression because it is believed that if you do not engage with this, you do not care about yourself, you are unmotivated, and you are unimportant. This means that people who are not beautiful or people who are not able to engage to the same extent because they do not have the wealth to do so, do not have the same success. But women who do buy in are told that they are superficial, that they're unnatural, that they're obsessed with themselves. They're not taken seriously, and in reality, they are taken advantage of. A beautiful woman in a workplace is not given career progression just by existing. She's given career progression by her creepy boss who tells her, hey, if you sleep with me, I'm going to give you a promotion. Women who prioritize this to the point of having less time to progress towards success lose out massively. Ultimately, women cannot win on your side regardless of what they do.
Alright, I thank the speaker for their speech and would like to invite the second speaker of the negating team to the floor.
Oh my God! Oh my goodness! Thank
Historically, beauty routines and makeup and skincare, these are things that have been around for a long time. These are things that are cemented in the frameworks and the societal expectations of what a woman is. These things have been around for so long, and yet the idea of using these beauty routines as self-care is a relatively new concept. So we do not agree with the affirming team's characterization of what happens to these beauty routines when we don't have this self-care aspect. We think these beauty routines are still going to go ahead, they're still going to be prevalent, but the way that they're prevalent, the purpose of them will be what it always has been, and what it always has been is to pander to men. To pander to the idea that a woman needs a man, and that a woman should dress for a man, a woman should do everything in that woman's power to attract other people and not for themselves. We think this is a characterization that actually happens on the side of affirming. So, 3 points in the speech. First of all, why individuals benefit from the beauty routine self-care trend. Secondly, why commercialization of beauty products in terms of self-care is beneficial. Thirdly, we'll be doing a split point on how beauty routines as self-care affirm the identity of members of the LGBTQ+ community. Okay, first point of clash. Why do individuals benefit from the beauty routine self-care? What do we hear from affirmative here? We hear that other forms of self-care are better. We hear that self-care is for the purpose of physical and mental health. We agree with this. Self-care is for making you feel good, right? So, what do we hear from them on these other forms of self-care? We hear like basically going to the gym, eating healthy, those kinds of things, right? But let's just point out that there are no other forms of healthcare that directly work on appearance. The only one that might come close is going to the gym, but that's very different because we think like going to the gym, working on your muscles, like your physique, is very different from like what makeup and beauty routines do, which is your face, your hair, that kind of aspect. Those are very different. They work on different things. So we think beauty routines are unique in that purpose of like providing that kind of validation. And we think that validation is really important because of physical insecurities, right? So why do we think physical insecurities are so apparent in people, right? Because they're tangible, firstly, right? People can look in the mirror and see, oh, look, here are all the insecurities. Here are all the things I don't like about my face, right? In comparison, we still think like mental insecurities are a big deal, but they're more like wishy-washy, right? Like it's harder for people to understand their own brains and like the way they act. Their behavior might change day to day, whereas their physical features, this is the second reason why it's so apparent, they stay the same every day, right? People can act differently from day to day. Their behavior and their mental processes can change, but their physical insecurities, they don't change. They don't go away quickly. These are insecurities that are really apparent in people, and beauty routines are the only thing that we can do to get rid of these insecurities. Even if it's temporarily, it's still really beneficial. So secondly, let's just talk about what this does for confidence. Self-confidence is so helpful, right? By being able to like wake up in the morning, to put on makeup, to cover up blemishes in your skin, to cover up like pimples, acne, this kind of thing, right? Obviously, this is a way that people can get rid of the insecurities they might have. If they don't like a certain way that their color comes out, if they don't like the like certain pockmarks they have in their face, they can cover that stuff up and they can get rid of those insecurities. I've already talked about why they're likely to have those insecurities, right? So what does that do? That means that when they go out, they're not thinking about those insecurities that they have, and that gives them so much self-confidence. Why is this really helpful? Firstly, they're more likely to take risks, right? If they're confident in their own ability, they're not second-guessing themselves, they're more likely to take risks. This could look like making a new friend, going up and talking to a new person. This could look like proposing a new idea in a career, right? Secondly, they're seen as more credible as well. Like, I know this seems kind of superficial, but like our brains make judgments on people just from our first look at them, right? Like a brain will paint a picture of the way they think of that person just by looking at them. If they've like dressed up and they've made themselves look tidy and like presentable, right? This is really helpful for going for like job interviews, these kinds of things, business meetings. We think that this self-confidence is really helpful. Like, for example, let's just look. Zoe had 1 hour to prep for her speech, right? She had so much self-confidence because she had that whole routine of time to prep for a speech. Then when she got up here, she was such a girl boss. She delivered that material so effectively, right? Her style was amazing. We don't think she would have had that same kind of style, that same kind of confidence if she didn't have that routine to prepare herself. We think this can be compared to the same way women use like beauty routines, right? They have this routine to get themselves ready and their physical appearance, right? So then when they go out, they feel like they've had that time to make themselves look good, right? And so then when they go into these environments, into their careers, into their social events, they feel like they can take risks. So we think that this idea of beauty routine as self-care is really beneficial because it's completely different to the characterization that we get on their side of the house, where beauty routines still exist as a way to make other people happy. I'll take a POI, Giovanni.
Do you think a company on our side is able to get away with telling women that they need to listen to men and need to wear makeup for men?
I think that a company is not able to get away with doing that directly. What I think happens more in today's like day and world is these kind of like subliminal messages things, right? Like they can use like certain advertisements tricks. Like marketing is a really like sophisticated career where they learn all these kinds of like trickery, right? Where they can perhaps like paint a picture of like, oh, maybe there's an advertisement of a woman going to a party and they've looked up good, like they've dressed up good. It doesn't need to be this direct like telling. Like of course people are going to be opposed to that, but there's so much manipulation that goes on in the world of advertising to circumvent that kind of thing. Okay, second point of clash, why the commercialization of beauty products in terms of self-care is beneficial. What do we hear from them, right? Trends look like sponsorship and commercialization. They say that influencers promote bad and expensive products and like it's really harmful, right? But let's just talk about the incentives of these influencers, right? They need followers, they need good reviews because that's what their brand is, right? If it's expensive, not enough people are going to pay for it. People are going to like backlash against that. Who do you think the audience of these people are? It's not people who can afford to pay for this stuff, right? So they're not going to get those incentives. They're not going to get those followers if they're not marketing towards people who can pay for the stuff. If it's bad quality, people are going to leave bad reviews. People are going to be like, your stuff is crap. People are going to open the comments, right, on their TikTok page and see, oh, I don't want to buy that because people have left bad reviews, right? But let's also think, we think they've like narrowed down what these trends actually look like, because there's also personal incentives for people to get involved in these trends, even if they're not like influencers or marketing people, right? We see like just normal people on TikTok, maybe they're in the lower class, like just making videos like, get ready with me, you know, like here's my makeup routine, like regardless of whether or not they're trying to sell products or not, because it's relatable to people, because it's content that's going to get views, right? Because of this self-care idea. We think that this is the like positive benefit that we get on our side of the house, and that this kind of relatable content, which like the affirming team is completely mischaracterized, completely pushed out of the debate. This kind of relatable content of people who aren't selling the product is what we get on our side, what we don't get on their side, and that's what inspires other people to also do beauty routines to make them feel good. Okay, onto my split point. How do beauty routines affirm, as self-care, affirm the identity of members of the LGBTQ+ community? So, people whose identity, like in their world, when people's identity doesn't fit with societal, gender, or sexuality norms, what happens when they participate in these beauty routines, right? Firstly, people can weaponize their makeup against their identity, like you're just doing it to fit in with the girls if they're like a gay man. Secondly, people feel like it's required if they identify with a more feminine identity, like we kind of mechanize this at start. And then thirdly, there's a general stigma of makeup for males or people who look like males. This is only amplified when makeup doesn't have a self-care aspect. So what happens? How come these people use this to affirm their identities? Firstly, because it restructures the purpose of these beauty routines, right? It gives them the justification that they can separate their identity and the label that's given to it, because it's about individual self-care. It's about themselves, right? People can say, no, like it's for me. It's not for the label, right? But secondly, it helps them to affirm their identity in their own home. On their side, there's no reason for people to like do makeup and skincare in their own home, because it's associated with other people's perceptions, right? Because they see no one else at home. But know that a lot of these people are in the closet, like they don't feel comfortable with expressing what their actual identity is to other people. So when they have this self-care aspect, they feel like they can dress up at home, right? And they can experiment with like what feels like me, right? They can, if they do know what feels like them, then they can express themselves, and that can be a place where they can feel like themselves, right? These are really vulnerable people, so we think we're protecting these people who like feel like they have no other way to express themselves, and because of this self-care, it gives them a coping mechanism. It gives them a way to feel like themselves.
Alright, I thank the speakers for their speech and would like to invite the third speaker of the affirmative team to the floor.
Let's go, Joe! Yeah, that's so true. Don't know why, but I should do this. Happy work, show. That's my speech now. Look, Judge, this morning, if Saad and I, instead of putting on our moisturiser, did 10 minutes of yoga, I promise you we would have won all of our debates today, right? Because moisturiser doesn't make you a better person, doesn't help you live longer. That is what people are doing under status quo. We make people do things for self-care that actually achieve better aims for themselves. Two questions then in today's debate. Firstly, which side increases confidence? And secondly, on about sexism. Cool. Now for the first side, which increases confidence? No, this is the point that's really important in today's debate, because if we improve, we get confidence in a different way under our side of the house that is greater, we simply win. Cool. So what do we hear first and second? The first thing we heard is that like it makes women feel confident when they can wear makeup, like it makes them feel really happy, like it's a self-care routine. My first response here is just the likelihood of the product achieving its aim is actually really low, right? Because when you advertise a product as like, if you put this mask on, it's going to give you less wrinkles. As soon as that person gets wrinkles, which is inevitable, they feel pretty bad when they got wrinkles, right? They feel like they're even worse because the product failed on them. They feel like this product doesn't work. That's probably really harmful for your confidence. Probably even worse, because the likelihood of these products actually working is relatively low, because there's relatively low like scientific proof behind it. Secondly, it's just like, even if the product works, because it's a trend, lots of new products keep coming, right? For example, this new elephant thing that everyone's talking about wasn't a trend 2 months ago. That is because trends keep moving. Therefore, if one trend happens, you engage with that trend, you buy those products. As soon as the next trend comes, you feel like you need to engage with that product because everyone's doing it. You feel pressured to follow the trend. That's how trends work. The second thing we heard from opposition is that beauty regimes like people using beauty products to hide their insecurities. My first response here is just like, insecurities are perpetuated when everyone around you is following them, right? They're even worse, because when every single person around you is using this bum cream from Mecca, right? You feel like you need to use that bum cream, right? You feel like you're not using that, so you feel like you're insecure. You get even more insecurities that you didn't know you had. Like, secondly, it's just the fact that if you do have those insecurities, you try and get a product that fixes it. Once you fix that insecurity, you find more insecurities. You know, people who like always try and find things wrong with ourselves, because these people at the top of the marketing are like perfect people who have plastic surgery and like all these like medical things done to them. Therefore, you're trying to achieve to be them. The only way to achieve to be them is to be born as them. That's not possible. Therefore, you're always trying to be them. You can't, because these products don't actually make you that person. The third response here from opposition is that like, you do self-care routines for yourself. It makes you feel really good when you do like routines in the morning. Firstly, it's like, we simply change this routine of self-care, right? Just because you don't put makeup on doesn't mean you can't do a routine in the morning. For example, you could do yoga or meditation, as we did before this debate, right? That hyped us up. I didn't need to put makeup on or moisturizer to get in my debating mindset. You can get confident in different ways. No, that is on our side of the house. So it's not that we have no routine. We probably have a better routine, because that routine is actually proven to help you do better perform, actually help you live longer. The fourth thing we heard from opposition is that people don't buy products that they can't afford. You know, they won't engage with these routines if they can't afford them. First, it's just that people following these routines are often like middle class, have some expendable income, so they feel like they should spend all their money on these healthcare routines. It's secondly like, also these people who probably can't afford it and like determining between whether to buy this product or something else, they're probably more inclined to buy it because everyone around them is spraying like these elephant creams on themselves, making them smell really nice. You feel public pressure, right? You want to fit in, you want to be like everyone else. There's that pressure to follow that routine, right? It's not true that everyone follows this to make themselves feel better. You follow it to be a sheep, and like to follow everyone around you. The last thing we heard was from Luca was that like this idea about LGBTQI plus people using makeup as like a thing that makes them feel happy. My first response is like, just because we change self-care doesn't mean creative makeup can't still be encouraged, right? We still have creative makeup. We believe this is more creative, and like sort of like this creative art of makeup is still on our side of the house. That's still normalized under society. We still have this for LGBTQIA plus people. And secondly, it's just like, we believe the effects are even worse when like every single person around them is using makeup. They feel like they have to follow that narrative to like fit in to be a woman. They have to wear this makeup. They have to like follow these exact stereotypes that are perpetuated by these self-care routines. Note, at the end of this debate, speech, I have shown you that firstly, people feel worse and not as confident when they don't actually get the goals that these products are trying to get to. You feel even better when you do different ways of finding that self-care routine. You feel like other ways to get confidence, which doesn't just mean like changing your appearance. That is like key to our side of the house. I'll take a PY before I move on. No PY?
Within creative art, like this idea that makeup being used for creative art, isn't creative art often inherently about presenting to others? Don't you think like the LGBTQ plus people don't have the capacity to show others if they're not coming out in public?
Creative art, you can use it as a creative way to show yourself. Like, you can be creative and show everyone. That's just not like, I don't think that really matters in today's debate. Cool. Now for the second question, how it affects the sexism and this sexist narrative. The first thing we heard from opposition is that the marketing is changed through a feminist lens, right? It's no longer like to please men. My first response here is just the standards that are perpetuated by these companies are what men specifically like, right? Because the reason we like wear makeup is because, like opposition said, men created it. Therefore, they're saying that you should wear makeup to make yourself look better for self-care, but in actual fact it's to please the male gaze, right? They're the ones who created the need in the first place. Like, you can't say that that's just for like self-care. The reason that it's so called self-care and accepted in society is because it supposedly helps you in the workplace. It helps you with this beauty bias. The second thing we heard from opposition is that the marketing is changed through a feminist lens. My first response here is just the reality of companies today is that if you were trying to get women to buy your product, you can't like be sexist. Like, you have to do this through like an undertone. You can't be like, you have to wear this, look beautiful. You like to be like, are you definitely need this. Like, a good example is Zoe gave you is like, to shave, women need to shave their legs, like Bit creating woman razors, right? They created this need. They're saying you need to do this for self-care, right? That is what the advertising actually looks like. They're creating a need that isn't actually needed to make you look beautiful. Secondly, it's just like women-owned brands who encourage like creativity thrive on our side of the house because like they're creative brands. They're like done by women. They're like that's sort of really good stuff. I'll quickly take a POI if you've got one.
You made the point about commercialization. They're pushing that you need to do this to have self-care. But without this beauty standards and self-care, don't you think that would change? Do you need to do this to get a man?
Well, no, because we've told you the idea of self-care is like to do yoga and things. The advertising behind like to sell makeup won't be to the same extent. People won't be engaging as much because you don't need it to like take care of yourself. They do other things to get engagement. They do other like the narrative is completely changed on our side of the house, right? Cool. Now, sir, how do we actually achieve confidence? Which leads us into how do we actually achieve confidence on our side of the house? Firstly, by saying confidence comes from excess, achievement, joy. You don't need to put moisturizer in the morning to be successful, to have a good day. Or what you need to do is like you find your success in other ways and you find your confidence in like meeting new people, and you can do that because you don't have to put makeup on to meet these people to follow that social norm. And secondly, by like not forcing insecurities upon women, they like don't lack confidence in the first instance, right? Because to sell these products, they need to create a need. They need to say you need to shave your legs. Therefore, the reason that they have the insecurities in the first place is simply because they made that happen. They made that in the first place. Therefore, to say their self-care is actually barbaric because in actual fact, they're just to please the marketing, just to sell more products. At the end of today's debate, I firstly told you is that people feel really insecure and unconfident on our opposition side when they don't achieve what these models look like because they've gone through so much plastic surgery. They're unachievable standards. Secondly, people actually feel more confidence, and the idea of confidence is perpetuated when you follow other norms like yoga, like meditation, which actually benefits you in the future. Lastly, I told you that like the narrative on sexism is actually perpetuated on their side because the narrative that people behind these companies are white men. They're who are controlling what is advertised. They're who are controlling what products you need to sell. It's even worse on our opposition side of the house. For those reasons, affirm.
You almost convinced me, Joe.
Oh my god. That's an equity violation there, Luke.
Sorry. Please don't worry.
I thank the speaker for their speech, and to close off the substantive portion of today's debate, I invite the third speaker of the next debate.
Okay.
It is. Sardis had a really long day, alright? Now, when he goes back to our hotel after this, you know what he's going to do? He's going to take a few deep breaths, he's going to get in a calm mindset, he's going to put some moisturizer on. He's going to feel good about himself. He's going to be like, even though I didn't really slay as hard as I wanted to today, I still did my best and I looked great doing it, alright? It's that girl boss moment that we stand up for here. Our path to victory in this debate was to prove that as these beauty standards have been adopted into the self-care trend, it changes the perception in which these beauty standards are shown. AF tried to change this entirely and say that if we didn't have this, it would be something entirely different. And I'm going to go through to you how they didn't mechanize how this world would actually change. So, two main points of clash. First of all, the effect on the women, men, and queer people who are partaking in this trend. And second of all, how corporations are changing as well. All right. Now, the goal on both sides, we said that the goal for women partaking in these trends, the goal for people partaking in these trends was to feel good. It was for that confidence. And sometimes people have insecurities, and it's okay to not want to have to try and overcome those all at once and have to learn to love every aspect of yourself all at once. But it is okay to try and learn to love yourself slowly. And that includes partaking in these trends, slowly starting to love yourself, and then being able to expose those insecurities to the world and learning to love those as well. And it is part of this self-care. It is part of this mental health that this comes under. All right. What was the biggest push for AF?
their biggest push in this effect on women is that these are unattainable beauty standards. They say that the influencer is the one pushing these. All right. First of all, they tried saying that influencers are going to push products that don't work. All right. But the thing is, these influencers are less likely to recommend bad products because they still need the followers. They can't get these sponsorships if all their followers are leaving because they tried on this shampoo and it made all their hair fall out. They're like, what the hell? They're going to go into the comment section, they're going to rage, they're going to report it, they're going to get super mad, and then a bunch of people are going to stop following them. And then they're not going to have any followers. They're not going to have any sponsorship money, which means they can't continue pushing these harmful products on women. All right? Now, they also brought up the fact about wealth. All right, but the thing is, they haven't engaged with the fact that a lot of influencers try to offer cheaper products because they realize that that's who they're targeting towards. They realize that the people who they're targeting towards can't afford all these $60 products. They might need to show them the Kmart alternatives. All right, and we support that. We love when people are like, look, you can look just as good and it's so much cheaper, and then you still feel just as good about yourself. All right, another push that they gave was under career progression. All right. First of all, this confidence that they gain from feeling good about themselves because they actually look how they want to present themselves. They think others perceive them to be attractive, which means that they're more likely to speak out in their career meetings. They're more likely to turn down their boss and be like, what the hell is wrong with you? All right. And report them to HR. If these women lack the confidence because they don't partake in these trends, because they think that they have to put on this makeup to appeal to men, because that is the comparative, they think that they have to accept their boss's advances because at least they're getting some attention from men. They think that they can't speak out in meetings because that means that they're like people are going to see them badly, right? We want women to have the confidence to speak out in their careers, to be able to be confident in themselves. Some other examples that the AF team gave of how they're going to achieve this is stuff like going to the gym, meditation, all right? But maybe Sard doesn't want to do meditation. Maybe he just wants to put his moisturizer on and just calm down, all right? They haven't explained why Sard is likely to go to the gym and help his physical health instead of putting on moisturizer like he likes to, all right? Now, under men, all right? So many times in the past, before this self-care trend and the beauty standards that come with it, men were told that if they wear makeup, then they're definitely gay because that's what makeup was perceived as, to try and attract the attention of men. Now, Sard and Joe can put on their moisturizer in peace without being blamed for being gay, all right? And this helps, people, just want to, present themselves how they want to present themselves, all right? Which also helps for the LGBTQ plus community, because Joe tried to tell you that these creative arts are still going to happen, except that will require them to, come out and be like, yes, I'm gay, right? And this is how I want to present myself. But with these self-care trends, they can just say, no, it's fine. I just like the look, all right? It makes me confident. And people are like, yeah, I can respect that. And they don't have to come out and face potential backlash, all right? Because the thing is, in either world, we've got this pressure, right? But without the beauty standards being adopted into the self-care trend, they're still there. All right, these pressures don't just magically disappear. All right, but now the pressure is you have to appeal to a man. All right, and that is the difference that we're making in the people who want to put on makeup. We have women who don't want to put on makeup because they feel like if they do, then they have to try and go out and get a man because that's what it's perceived as. All right, that is the whole marketing strategy of a lot of corporations, which is my second point of clash. But before I get into that, I'll take a point of clash.
Given that we stand for health and well-being and general mental steadiness, would we not encourage people to do things that they enjoy, like putting on moisturizer, regardless?
Okay, but you have to realise that a lot of stuff like putting on moisturizer is seen as a negative light if it's not considered self-care, all right? And it's not considered to be beneficial for your mental health if it's the thing is, it's specifically the skincare and makeup routines. They're still encouraged on either side to go out and do things that they enjoy, except on their side, they've got this negative connotation specifically around makeup, and they haven't explained how that goes away. We have explained how it goes away on our side. It becomes like self-care rather than like trying to get a man. All right. Now, moving on to corporations. But firstly, I'd like to do a little bit of weighing. All right. The women in this debate are so important. The men in this debate are so important. The LGBTQ plus community are so important because they're the ones that are spending their entire lives with the societal pressure on them. And when this pressure is a little bit alleviated, or at least they have a little scapegoat of it makes me feel confident, it makes me take care of myself, that means that they're able to do the things and express themselves without society thinking that the reason is to get a man. All right, it's removing these expectations and these connotations of what wearing makeup means. Secondly, on corporations, they did a push on sponsorships with influencers. Except the thing is, we can see on Instagram that there's a little thing down the bottom that says this is just paid sponsorship. Otherwise, they get in a lot of trouble. This means people can see it. They have critical thinking skills and go, oh, if they're getting paid to do this, maybe I should investigate a little bit first. Or if they're not getting paid to do it, they're like, oh, this is probably like actually a good thing because it means that they're actually using it and they're giving it as advice rather than to get money. All right. We also had talked about the fact that these commercializations used to be, and that is how they will continue to be without this trend, is you have to get a man to, these are the products that'll help you get a man. Now, these are the products that'll make you feel confident and good about yourself, which is empowering women. It's empowering the feminist movement. And it's empowering men like Joe and Sard who just want to put on moisturizer in peace without people thinking that there's negative connotations to it. Thank you.
Alright, I thank the speaker for their speech. Now into Baby's greatest mystery since Sard's actual self-care routine.
Cleanse first! I don't just moisturize, you always cleanse.
We're going to flip the speaking order, so I invite the leader of the negative team to the floor.
That's so beautiful.
That's not Melissa One Track's great.
Oh my goodness, really? This far.
Anything for the team.
Beauty routines still exist on both sides. We tell you this. But they have for a long time. Commercialization of these routines will always exist on both sides as a result of capitalism. But on their side, this commercialization looks like emphasis on attractiveness, on the validation of others. On our side, it looks like emphasis on self-validation of happiness. This is so much better. 2 points of clash here. First of all, the benefits to beauty product users, and secondly, the benefits to commercialization and why that commercialization is more beneficial on our side of the house. In their best case, makeup and this idea of makeup for self-care is perpetuating these gender norms. But even if we take all of that analysis, even if we believe all of that, what did we tell you at SARD? We told you about the benefit of these routines regardless of their outcomes, right? We told you that firstly, the fact that people are seeking out self-care in the first place to do these routines is really beneficial. It starts a pattern of behavior. We told you that secondly, it creates mental associations between the routine, doing these things over time because it's a routine, and feeling good. This is so helpful. Let's just, regardless of whether they can prove that there's all these impacts on gender norms, let's look at who's the most vulnerable people in this debate. It's people who feel like they have no one to turn to. It's people who struggle with mental health on a day-by-day basis, right? These really vulnerable people have this option of using makeup, of using beauty routines as a coping mechanism, because self-care ultimately at the end of the day, as we've heard from Affirming, is about feeling good. It's about mental health. So why are we robbing them of that opportunity to use beauty routines as a coping mechanism, right? Even if it's only a couple of people who are doing it, this is so helpful for these people to be able to release those negative emotions that they have when they have nowhere else to go, to be able to just have something that constantly makes them feel good because of the brain connections that they've made. This is so helpful for these people, even if they can prove all of their information. Let's note that they made no response on this material at SARD, right? What else did we tell you on our side about why it is actually beneficial to these product users? We told you about self-confidence. We told you that there's no other way that people can remove these physical insecurities. We told you what that does in their workplace, in their social life, in their careers. We told you about LGBTQ plus people. Let's know that this didn't get very much response to it at Joe. Sorry, Joe. And we think that these individuals are actually really vulnerable, and this opportunity for them to use makeup as a way of expressing themselves in a safe way is so impactful to them. We think that these benefits to these beauty product users for self-care, like even if we get some harmful commercialization to some people, we think that the people who are impacted in a positive way, like these are the people we care about the most. These are the most vulnerable people. Now, second point of clash on beneficial commercialization. They tell you commercialization is exploitative, right? Firstly, we tell you that there's the incentives on these creators for profit means that they're restricted to cheaper and high quality products. Otherwise, people won't buy them. People aren't going to otherwise, they'll get a bad review. All of these things, right? We hear from them that trends come and go, but we tell you that this doesn't really matter. We see these beauty routines as a constant in their lives. We tell you notably that it's not just these influencers, these commercial people, but it's also just about your average Joe on TikTok who's making a get ready with me video. And these are the people that are reaching all of the people in this country. Your relatable person is more likely to reach everyone else. Those are the people who are creating the most of this content. Those are the people who aren't being exploitative at all. That's where all of our positives are coming from on our side. But what do we get in terms of commercialization on our side of the house? We get a huge advancement of the feminist movement, right? We dismantle oppressive gender norm, right? We empower women to do things for themselves. We create this really helpful and beneficial idea that men can use skincare. This dismantling of toxic masculinity and the ways that men can present themselves is so helpful to both to men and to women, to the goals of the feminist movement as a large. And ultimately, just like Northland lost their toad mascot, they've lost this debate.
Alright, I thank you speaker for that speech. And to close us out for the in rounds of Nationals 2023, I invite the leader of the affirmative team.
I think it's clear that to win today's debate, I need to prove that these beauty regimes that are seen as self-care are actually detrimental to people's happiness and well-being. Look, we have two main points of clash in today's debate. Firstly, do these beauty regime trends actually make people happy? And then the point on consumerism. So, firstly, Nick's pathway to victory was to show us that the current beauty regimes being pushed actually make people happy. Even though I love them so much, I am going to have to, unfortunately, explain why this is not true and why we have proven a happier people on our side. So they have said things like when people are sharing their skincare routine online, they're doing it to help others. It's creating that kind of community. They've also said things like the beauty regimes are able to benefit people because they feel more confident in themselves and they're able to, put on their moisturizer and feel great about who they are, especially for men. But we have had a lot of analysis around this. Firstly, these insecurities are perpetuated by the beauty standards that I will later talk about that we have analysed throughout this whole entire debate. Look, we say men putting on some moisturiser isn't going to fix the centuries of women being perceived as lesser than. The men who criticise feminism aren't as the same group as the men engaging in skincare and makeup, so we aren't uplifting the feminist movement while engaging these men in this kind of skincare situation. We also like to point out that men looking after their skin and such is not actually the aim of the beauty regimes. They are directed towards women, and companies specifically direct their products towards women because of those perpetuated beauty standards, which I'll go into now. So we have had this huge argument about the fact that these beauty regimes are perpetuating certain beauty standards onto women. We have shown you multiple things like influencers pushing these trends that are unrealistically beautiful, that have all of this plastic surgery done, all of this artificialness about them that is reinforcing these beauty trends. we've shown that these standards are just far too unachievable for the average person to obtain. It is something that they cannot ever compare to. Now, this causes people obviously to feel horrible about themselves and what they look like. Does that sound like a happy society? No, it doesn't. People understand that they don't look like what they're seeing on the internet. They don't look like those people, and they feel horrible about who they are because they can never ever meet those standards. Now, moving on to the second main point of clash was about consumerism. Their main response to these have been like, people can tell if there's an ad that's happening. Influencers get restricted to cheap products, which, by the way, we've given examples of cases where this has not happened, and we've seen very expensive products. I could really go on and on and on for you if you would like, but I think we understand that we're seeing $70 to $100 products that are about this big being advertised towards girls to obtain that beautiful look. They've also said things like the average Joe are the majority of influencers, which in our characterization we did state that they are typically beautiful women because those are who you want to look like. I'm sorry, Joe, I don't want to look like the average. We have pointed out that to fit into the beauty standard, people are willing to pay way too much money because we have placed way too much value upon how we look in society. We have made it seem like that is the crux of our humanity, is to look beautiful while walking down the street. But no, we actually get to set up an alternative for you where we can focus on our physical well-being, our exercise, our bodies. We can focus on our mind and our heart and evolving through that, which will actually give us that happy life that we have proven so clearly in today's debate. We not only limit people from over-consuming and overspending on these products, but we also stop them from believing that they are less than, believing that they have to compare to these insanely beautiful people, and loving themselves, working on their actual issues like their mental health and their physical body that can improve their lifespan, that can improve their happiness, and improve the way that they live their life. Thank you.
Alright guys, a couple things to finish up. Firstly, I want to congratulate all speakers, not just on this debate, but for these 7 rounds we have had. We are so glad to have you guys here in person. We hope you enjoyed yourselves as much as us. I also want to especially thank you guys for making the final round of this stage of the day so high energy, so entertaining, and so engaging for us to watch that we aren't falling asleep. 3 hours of sleep. So, we are now, yes?
Please, before you leave, can you fix the room so I don't feel all messed up?
Now, it's a silent round, so we are all going to leave. Joe, Lucas, Saab, and myself are going to put on moisturizers. To the champions dinner, you may cross the floor. Thank you.
Just like you lost your tone.
A brief reminder not to say anything problematic. The stream is still going.
What does the room need to look like?
I would just assume like
I'm one of the one joint scroll. I'm the first all-woman team.
121 years of history, eh?
Melissa, will you be disappointed if they lose the debate about women? Because, you know, like they say message. Well, I mean, I think I clearly just don't do why you guys are
we have to be on the bus at 6:45, right?